Captain, enemy ships decloaking off our port bow.
They're charging weapons!
Shields up! Red alert!
They're firing!
Containment failure detected. Warp core breach imminent.
Welcome to Warp Core Breach, Episode 2. On this episode, Nick and David talk about blind boosters and other news. Griffin overviews the escape. The Faction Report looks into some Federation combos. These Are the Voyages talks about campaign format. And we all have a talent show.
Warning. Warp core breach detected.
I'm David Montgomery, and here's my co-host, The Trip to My Flocks.
I'm Nick Norris. Welcome everyone to Episode 2. We've got a great show planned for you. We've got the Temporal Cold War, blind boosters, Tong preview, and other goodies.
Sounds like a packed show indeed, Nick. So what do you want to get started with?
Well, let's jump into what's coming up. We've got a lot of great announcements. We've got a lot of news and other things coming up for the game. One of the things we've got is the Temporal Cold War. It's the next storyline OP coming later this year, and that's going to cover the Enterprise series and the Xindi War. The OP prize ships for the Temporal Cold War have been announced, and those are the Xindi ships. We've got the Reptilian, the Aquatic, and the Arboreal, and for the grand prize, we've got the Xindi weapon.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I am personally looking forward to the Aquatic.
You and me both.
Yeah, of course, that weapon ship, that will be a doozy.
No kidding. I wonder how they're going to make that one fly.
Maybe a large base ship like the Borg Tactical Cube?
Here's hoping.
Either way, I think potentially getting a new faction or independent, whichever way they choose to go with that. We don't know that yet. Future Dave here. Got an unnamed source that has told me that Xindi will be their own faction, so stay tuned for more news on that. I think the Xindi are a great addition to this game.
They're kind of the unsung heroes of Enterprise in a lot of ways, because they weren't exactly villains.
No, they were just people that were doing what they thought were best. It was really the sphere builders that were the villains.
Mm-hmm. They were trying to save their race of people. Their race being a conglomeration of many races, their own federation, if you will.
Ah, so they were the Federation before the Federation?
Quite possibly. They were an alliance of worlds.
Yeah. Well, regardless, I think the Xindi are a great addition to this game. I hope that we get more than just these 3 ships and the grand prize. I hope that maybe there's a Xindi blind booster to come.
Ooh, wouldn't that be something? And that actually leads us into the next bit. In the past, for both Collective and Resistance is Futile, we received blind bricks of 5 ships, 2 each, in a 10-pack. And these blind ships were used, they were added into your fleet build for the tournament. Now, coming up, we've got another blind brick, but it's going to be 10 unique ships. So instead of doubling them up on 5, you've got 10 individual new ships. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to.
Yes, me too. No more fighting the same blind ship that you got, which is always a nice thing. Now, of course, this leads into a slight problem with gotta catch 'em all.
Completionists like myself don't really have too much issue with that. But it does open up a bit of an issue for the people that don't have the budget to buy each and every ship. Fortunately, production and availability online and trading, all parts of our wonderful Star Trek Attack Wing community, it does allow people to acquire the odd gem for their collection.
That is true. And the nice thing about this brick of blind boosters is that they are supposed to be used for 12 months worth of OP play.
Indeed, instead of being locked into a specific storyline.
So I really think that having the option to use the same set of 10 ships for 12 OPs, maybe 11, since WizKids tends to take December off.
And don't forget the episode OPs tend to be separate from that.
True. But ultimately it becomes a store choice. Stores can run anything as a blind brick or not a blind brick, as they choose.
Especially in areas like mine where we have multiple stores playing, one of them might choose to focus using the blind boosters, and another one may not. So everybody has options, and it keeps the community varied.
Yeah, and you might see 1 month you run the blinds, 1 month you don't. You just change things up. Say what you will about the blinds, but the thing that they do better than anything else is that they give you an element of unpredictability, and they make it so that you don't absolutely know what you're flying when you get there.
It really gives you a challenge. It allows you to strut your stuff and show what you're capable of in the heat of the moment.
Yes, now it does make it a little bit harder for new players. A, it's a bit more expensive to play. B, you've got a situation where you have to fleet build right away, and that can be daunting. But fortunately, there aren't too many options, so it's just kind of like, well, do I want option 1 or option 2?
True enough, and I think WizKids was really smart in the way that they did the building with blind ship. You get a set number of points, and with what they include in the blind boosters, you have to choose the ship, so that part's easy. And what it comes down to is really whether or not you add 1 or 2 upgrades to that ship, because usually they price the cards such that you can pick 1 really good card, or you can do 2, middling cards. And what you decide there may or may not decide the outcome of the game.
Yeah, I remember back in Collective and Resistance, winning and losing games solely because of my blind ship.
Yes, a lot of people took it for granted, and that definitely opened things up to those that took it more seriously.
Yeah, so never underestimate anything that's on the table.
Absolutely. One of the things that really took the charge in the Resistance is Futile was that Kazon booster. It, completely out of left field. People didn't think too much of it, especially given that it was only the Kazon Raider that was available at retail. This guy comes out, powerful ship, and just took everybody by surprise. So I was actually looking forward to pulling that ship each time. So 2 out of 3 times, that's what I got, and I was happy.
Yeah, I was only fortunate enough to get that once, but when I did, I wreaked havoc with it. So much so that I even brought it to a future event.
Nice.
But yeah, speaking of ships, we had a new preview.
Yes, we did. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, we got the Tong, which is a Klingon ship. Future Dave here again. We also got the Vrax preview on Saturday, July 25th. So if you haven't seen those, take a look. And in it, we got a really new mechanic. And that is time tokens.
Oh, this is something I've been looking forward to.
So, D&D Attack Wing kind of utilized this. But basically what time tokens do is you put them on your card, and at the end of every round, you take them off. And you can't use the card until you have no more time tokens on the card.
Yeah, it's a countdown timer, essentially.
Yes. So, brilliant mechanic for photon torpedoes.
Oh, something that they've sorely needed for some time.
And rumor has it that this is the way photon torpedoes are going to be for a long time. At least we get 1 for every faction that's going to be this way.
Excellent.
I'm on board with that thought.
It's the shape of things to come, and I like it.
Yeah, now that doesn't mean that your existing photon torpedoes are now no longer playable, because there are certainly combos to pull off with re-enabling torpedoes and all of that.
Mm-hmm, especially with the Federation Fleet Captain card.
Yes, and Loger and other stuff like that. But, time mechanic, kind of a neat idea. And the ability to apply that to other cards other than just weapons, also something that's going to be really interesting, and I think it ties very thematically into that Temporal Cold War organized play series.
Exactly what I was thinking. I have a feeling we're going to see some interesting cards and scenarios that will possibly play around with the whole time token concept.
They may give time tokens out to cards that don't normally get them, just to keep them inactive for a while.
Mm-hmm. Like with the QOP, where you'd have upgrades or captains that were flipped over. Maybe in the Temporal Cold War, what they might do is assign time tokens to certain cards or upgrades, and then that's just a way of taking them out of play for a short time without forcing it as a permanent effect.
I'm really excited about time tokens. I think that that has a possibility to make Star Trek Attack Wing a whole new game. Believe me, it's needed a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Not a huge breath, just a little breath. And this could be the thing that really innovates it. And you go, well, innovate, they're just stealing it from D&D Attack Wing. Well, yeah, but you know what? They're taking a good concept and they're bringing it over to a game that needs it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like the game was just suffering from a brief asthma attack, and now that it's got a boost with its inhaler, it's good to go.
Oh, that is well put, Nick.
All right, so what's new with you in Star Trek Attack Wing?
Well, I got a chance to play QOP2 on Saturday, July 18th. I managed to come in second, but we only had 3 people playing, which made me really sad.
Aw.
That's the summer holidays for you, though.
Yeah.
I lost to a ship peer build, and we're an unlimited venue, so that actually excited me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guy that's been playing for about a year now, and he's never beaten me in an OP. And so he got his first win against me, and we had a really hard-fought match. So it was very exciting to see that. I enjoyed it thoroughly, so my hat's off to John. He deserved it, and now he and I are tied going into Q3, and that's going to be a really fun event.
I look forward to hearing more about that as that unfolds.
Yeah. So also that night, I came home, and I managed to find some images for the Bellerophon, which is the prize ship from Year of Hell. Took those, made a spoiler video of it, put it up on the Shipyard, which is my review channel that I have on YouTube, where I find innovative, fun uses for every card in the game.
I've really enjoyed going through that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Seems like a fair number of people have done that. In the first 48 hours, I've had almost 1,000 views.
That's impressive.
That tells me that people want news on this game.
Well, here's hoping we get more of that.
I sure hope so. WizKids need someone to give us the news, give us these spoilers, because we're all fans. We want to see what's coming. And we want to see it from somebody that loves the game, not from eBay.
Exactly. That's pretty much the worst place to get your news from. We need to get the excitement back into the game, make it something that feels more like the family group is saying, hey, we've got this great thing coming up. I'm looking forward to it. I know you're going to look forward to it. Let's dive through this and just love it.
Yeah. So, Nick, what's new in the Star Trek Attack Wing world for you?
Well, with the summer, a lot of people have been busy, going on vacations and everything, so we're a little bit behind on our OPs, but we're doing a little bit of doubling up to catch up. We've got Peak Performance coming up tomorrow night, and then the following week we're going to be jumping right into QOP1, something we're really excited about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Those are fun missions. I really enjoyed Peak Performance. QOP1 is messy. Q's just a gigantic jerk.
But that's why I love him.
Oh, I think we all love him.
Oh, yeah. John Delancey was such a brilliant choice for the role. I'm glad things turned out that way because he gave it something that I don't think anybody else could have. And it's a worthy successor to the Trelane character from the original series.
Yeah.
And he sure made it his own.
Well, and if you believe what interviews tell you, Q is about 70% John Delancey and 30% writing.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so wonderful and why he feels so natural to the part. He is the character. The character is him.
I think it was the Naked Now. It's the one where Q shows up, mortal. The Enterprise is fixing the moon. Future Dave here. It's actually Deja Q, not the Naked Now. Back to the show. It's the one that Q2 is based on. It was a fun episode. And it's Q, and it feels like Star Trek, and you get those kinds of things.
Growl for me, Worf. Let me know you still care.
But I still love the end of that episode where Data laughs.
Oh, that was one of my favorite moments, and getting the Data laughing card from the Decipher CG was a definite treasure for me, because it just helped solidify that moment.
Oh, for me too.
Well, that's a great way for us to kick off our episode. Coming up, we have our contributors, and following that, we will be having our top 3 elite talents.
It's a talent show, everybody!
Don't
worry, Nick won't be singing.
Tired of the man ordering you around? Want to be your own boss? At the Imperium, we'll help you get your ship, get a crew, and get work. You'll see the stars the way you want to. We source it, you run it. Everyone profits.
And now here's David Griffin with Destroy the Outpost.
Hi, this is Dave Griffin. Today we're discussing the Destroy the Outpost mission. This is essentially the original show's Balance of Terror episode, which is fan favorite. It's a two-player scenario, originally came with the Galgathong. It pits a Romulan bird of prey, either the Galgathong or the Vortivore, or the generic, against one 45-point Federation ship. The obvious choice is the Federation Constitution class. There are two objective tokens. Both represent Federation outposts, which have 3 hull and nothing else. So they're there just as objectives for the Romulans. There are special rules that the Federation ship, if it is at range 1 of an outpost being shot, can take as much of that damage as it likes onto its own shields, to the limit of its own shields. This can be useful if the Romulan goes for destroying the outpost as a scenario choice. In fact, on the Federation side, the objectives are simple: to destroy the Romulan bird of prey. On the Romulan side, they have 2 options. They can either try to destroy the Constitution-class ship, or they can go for the outposts and then escape through their own entrance area. Now, it's pretty hard to duel a Constitution-class ship, or any ship of equivalent points. The Federation ship has better guns and it has better arcs, and those are going to be hard to stay out of. And their maneuver dial is very good too, especially if they've got forest along to give them extra maneuvering. So they're going to be very hard to outmaneuver, and both of the Romulan bird of preys have 90-degree forward arcs and no rear arcs. So I don't advise that as an option. On the other hand, they can go for the outposts instead of the Constitution-class ship. The problem is the Constitution is going to be shooting at them the whole way, so they need to make themselves harder to hit. There are some possible options. The India Evade flagship will give them an evade. It'll also give them an extra gun, and it'll also give them some increased durability. And all that's going to be critical to survival. I'd use the Vortivore for its extra maneuvering, sensor echo capability after doing the green maneuver. I would use Mendak for battle stations, and I would use that for defense. I might bring along Disruptor Beam because it's a nice big gun, big shot. The only problem is that you're going to have a hard time having the actions to re-enable it. Tactical Officer's not a bad idea if you plan to do target locks. And advanced cloaking would be very, very good to bring along so that you'll be taking aux tokens instead of coming out of cloak and having to recloak. Now on the Constitution side, I wouldn't take the Janeway prize. For one thing, I think you'll get better performance out of Spock, and I don't think you need to be as bulletproof as the Janeway prize is. And it's kind of unfair anyway because it kind of makes you unshootable. I would take Spock as the captain, and I would bring along Walton. The two of them together are a very good combination. I'd go for Admiral Forrest for some increased maneuverability, though at the cost of an action. And if you've got the Hood, Type 8 phasers and a system upgrade are almost too good. So the problem with this scenario is that at this point the Federation has a lot better toys. I don't think it balances very well as it currently is written. To make it balanced, to make it play so that both sides have about an even chance of winning, I would subtract 5 to 10 points from the Federation side and deny them resources while allowing resources for the Romulans. I think if you do that, you'll get a fairly even battle, but you'll have to experiment. I think this is worth playing. I always like scenarios that model the original episodes or movies, and I'd rate it 3.5 out of 5.
Next up, Walton continues the faction report with an in-depth look at some Federation combinations.
Hi everyone, I'm Dave Walton, and this is the Faction Report, talking again about attacking for Federation. Last time I spoke about some of the ships that you can put stuff on, which have a high basic attack value. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how to make the best of those attacks. And the first place to start is with captains. One of the Federation's great strengths is they have some really great captains, not least of which Picard 9. Picard 9 allows you to do any action on the standard Fed action bar as a free action, which means if you put him on a 5 attack ship, you can get battle stations and target lock every turn for that really good 98% attack efficiency. Another guy that they have in faction that they can use to get the same effect is Spock, who allows you to do a target lock or a scan as a free action. Spock's really great, again, on a Prometheus or Sovereign class ship, because he will give you a target lock and battle stations every turn. 5 attack dice, target lock and battle stations, can't ask much better than that. And if you configure him the right way, he can go on the Sovereign, with dorsal phaser array for 40 points. Picard can go on the Prometheus with dorsal phaser array for 40 points. And you can still fit 2 sets of fighters in. So that's pretty good attack power for 120 points with 4 ship. Anyway, outside of that, obviously Type 8 phaser array, put that on any 3 attack ship to make it a 4 attack ship. But if you've already got a Type 8 phaser array on ship and you're looking to boost the attack even further, I might suggest Jonathan Archer as a captain you might look at. What Archer does is he disables 2 crew to give you +2 captain skill and also +2 attack. It is an action, so you'd have to try and find a way of making it a free action in order to get some kind of efficiency on there. My preferred way of doing this is to put a squad leader upgrade on a set of fighters and fly them near to Archer's ship. That means that you can do Archer's action as a free action, and then you can use the ship's action to do something like battle stations. Another card that I would put on Archer's ship would be Pavel Chekhov, which is a card I don't see used very much, but is actually quite good. And what Pavel Chekhov can do is he disables and allows you to re-roll all of your dice, all of your misses. If it's on Archer's ship where you've got a crew that's disabling anyway, it might be a good idea also to put Phlox and Beverly Crusher on the same ship, just so you don't have to worry about cycling those particular disabled cards, because they're just going to be cycled anyway. Or if you're strapped for points in some way, put Phlox on there and the Federation Fleet Captain, because that allows you to remove 1 disabled token a turn. So there's just some ideas of how you can make the best out of Federation. They have other cards that can help you with dice efficiency as well. Dmitry Valtain is a scan enhancer, and so is Spock, Crew Spock, who allows you to use a scan basically as a battle stations token. Valtain allows you a couple of rerolls if you've got a scan on your ship. So into the bargain you get a scan token and some efficiency on your dice as well. As for the fighters, they have the coordinated attack upgrade, which is a disable which allows you to have a battle stations. Now, in my mind, taking battle stations is always better than taking target lock. So Fed fighters have the option of, for 1 turn at least, you take the target lock as the ship's action, and then you disable coordinated attack to place a battle stations next to the ship. So you get, for that first Alpha Strike at least, a 5 attack dice roll that has access to both battle stations and target lock. If you're using the name Fed Fighters, that gets even better. So there you go, there's some ideas for making the most out of your Federation attacking. This has been the Faction Report. My name is David Walton. You can find me on notpicard.blogspot.com, which is where I write in a little bit more detail about these things. And I'm Not Picard. It's been great talking to you.
I've really been looking forward to this moment. This is where I introduce you to Nick's Intermix. In this segment, I take a look at the different interactions between the cards in Star Trek Attack Wing. See which ones fizzle, which ones sizzle, which ones are stable, and which ones are volatile. First up is Tech Sacrifice. First, let's start with the USS Dauntless. It's a 2-2-4-5 ship that costs 26 points. It says each time you perform an action or use an ability on any of your tech upgrades, place a mission token on this card. During the roll attack dice step, you may spend up to 2 of these tokens to gain 1 attack die for that attack, for each token spent. Naturally, for a ship that comes with 4 tech slots, you want to load up some technology that's going to give you some functionality here. First up, we'd have auto navigation, which by itself adds a tech slot. So boom, you've got 5 tech slots in total. This one's secondary ability, where you reveal a chosen maneuver, you disable the card to change your maneuver to any green maneuver you find on your dial. Boom, that's a token right there. Next one, Monotanium Armor Plating. This has both a reactive and active ability. The reactive ability allows you to shake off an attempted target lock by rolling 2 defense dice. You get at least 1 evade, it's gone. Should you be unfortunate not to roll an evade, and the target lock lands on you, on your next turn you can spend an action to shake it off. 1 more token for the Dauntless. Next tech is the Navigational Deflector. When taking damage this round, you discard the card to cancel a hit result. And if that damage is from a minefield or an obstacle, instead of discarding it, just disable it. Boom, there's another token for the Dauntless. And if that's not good enough, you even get the ability to roll defense dice against obstacles or minefields with this card. Each time you do that, boom, another token for the Dauntless. How about this one, High Energy Sensor Sweep. After you move, you disable an active shield to perform a free scan action. Free action and another token for the Dauntless. But wait, there's more. How about Transwarp Drive? During the activation phase, if your maneuver dial reveals a straight 4 or straight 5, you may instead use a straight 6. Boom! Another token for the Dauntless. I could go on, but I want you guys to see if you can find any tech that would work for you in this situation as well. But I'll save the best for last. Let's say you get tired of some of these tech and you don't really feel you need them anymore. Alright, let's pull in Eric Pressman. He's a 2-point admiral that has not been getting much love since his release. But here's a situation where he would come in very handy indeed. Now what he does is you spend a fleet action to disable one of your tech upgrades to gain 1 attack die with your primary weapon this round. Not all that appealing, especially if the card's already disabled. But he's got a second fleet action where you can discard your unwanted tech upgrades to gain 2 attack dice with your primary weapon this round. So, if you sacrifice one of your tech upgrades, that gives you +2 to your attack, which starts at 2, so that puts you at 4. Then you spend 2 of the tokens that you have on your ship to add another 2, that puts you at 6. Not bad for just going about your business. Now, if you want to kick it up another notch, you could add on a captain something like Lore. And what he does, it adds a crew slot to your upgrade bar. And then with that, during the roll attack dice step of the combat phase, you can discard one of those crew upgrades to gain an attack die for that attack. And it doesn't cost an action. Added bonus, you can assign an elite talent to your ship regardless of the faction restriction. You do not pay the faction penalty. So, let's throw on the Vulcan High Command and add another 2 crew slots, or add a crew and a tech slot, or 2 more tech slots. There's certainly a lot you can do with that. But if you want to try a different tack and try to squeeze a little bit more out of it, let's try Captain Carr instead. When attacking during the Modify Attack Dice step, you may re-roll any one of your attack dice twice. In addition, if your captain's skill is greater than the target ship's skill number, during the Roll Attack Dice step, gain 1 attack die. That brings us to 7. Shall we go for 8? Then let's put on Stalking Mode. Many of you know this one already, but just in case you don't, action. Discard this card to target a ship at range 1 to 3. The target ship's skill number is reduced by 2. This boosts Carr's ability. In addition, during the roll attack dice step, gain +1 attack die against the target ship. Both these effects last until the end of the game. Wow, so that's an 8 attack Dauntless. Not bad, huh? I hope for some of you I've just opened your mind to some new possibilities. Tune in next week for more of Nick's Intermix.
And next up, we've got Natasha with a brand new segment.
Hi everyone, this is Natasha. I'm Dave's girlfriend, and I'll be doing a segment called Dude, It's Just a Game. I chose this name because it's something I frequently say to David while playing or planning Star Trek Attack Wing. I enjoy the game, I like playing it, but I'm not nearly as obsessed as David. We're going to be doing an interview-style segment where he's going to ask me questions, and I'm going to answer from the perspective of somebody who likes the game but doesn't know every card by the picture and can't recite the captains in alphabetical order. I just like the game.
So for our first show, we wanted to start with a very basic thing.
Right.
I have hundreds of ship expansions.
All of them ×2, I think, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that becomes a very daunting experience.
Yeah, a little bit.
So when I say, here's a mission, build a fleet, what do you do?
There's usually lots of crying, some headbanging involved. No, seriously, it is really daunting, especially when I know that the segment I might want a really defensive team or a super maneuverable team, but I don't necessarily know how to get there. But knowing what you want in the scenario is really one of the biggest steps. In a scenario where you don't have a lot of room, you need to be able to maneuver. Where there's obstacles, you need to be able to maneuver. Where you're fighting the Borg, that's happened in some OPs, you're going to want to be able to have lots of guns to fire. It really just kind of depends on the scenario, and knowing what you want your fleet to look like is a really important starting point. What do you want to focus on? Do you want a lot of upgrades, or do you want basic ships? I think one thing that I tend to look at first is how many ships I want. Some OPs or missions, it's good to have a lot of little ships that can blow up easily, and others you want to have at least 1 or 2 that never die.
Right, and from there, I think you've kind of gotten to a point where you lay out a framework for me. And then I'm able to pull a lot of cards and say, hey, here are some options that help you get there.
Right. You're basically my Wizard of Oz when it comes to Star Trek. I'm just like, hey, I want to do this. How do I do it? But for those of you that don't have an amazing, awesome David in your life, first of all, I'm very sorry for you. And second of all, there are lots and lots of ways you can do the same thing. Space Dock is one of the most amazing apps that at first I hated so much I wanted to set it on fire. That would require burning my phone, so that's bad. But it is available on Android and Apple computer, but not Windows computer, which is weird, but whatever. Anyways, it has all of the ships, captains, upgrades, talents, everything you need. You can look at it by faction, you can look at it by however you want to, and you can start to build it, and it'll tell you how many points it is. It's a really, really neat resource.
Yeah, there's also a new builder called Utopia that works on any computer.
The other resource, which I never use because I have one of the main moderators, but David is a moderator on the Facebook page, which is where you can go in and say, hey, I have this part of my build, but I don't know how to complete it. What do I do? And then, David or somebody else would say, hey, put Riker on there.
We specifically have a Facebook group for the build group, and we'll throw a link to that in the show notes. But it's also on Facebook. Just search Star Trek Attack Wing Build Group, and you'll get there. So those are good options. Really, I think the important thing when you're first starting off is maybe pick a faction or a couple of factions and stick with it.
Right, well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, that the Federation has a lot of upgrades and captains that are useful, so maybe you start there, find a good ship. Start with a ship or a captain, and then kind of see how much you can find in that faction. So if you're doing the USS Voyager, then find as much Federation stuff as is useful. I mean, don't just throw random stuff on there, but find the things that are useful in Federation, and then maybe go out of faction. I tend to throw everything on ship. I'm just like, oh, hey, that's a cute card. Let me just throw that on there. And then David talks me down very well.
Right, and I think there's a good balance between, hey, this does a thing and that does a thing, versus, well, but if I don't use all of this, I can have another ship.
Right.
So I think there's a good balance, but I think more than anything else, getting out there and playing is the best thing you can ever do when you're learning.
Right, and I think it's much harder to build a fleet or a ship or whatever you're trying to do by yourself. I think you need to have somebody you can talk it out with, whether it be on the Facebook community or a friend or someone at the store you play at. It's someone to talk out the different things of your build.
I think those are all the things I do when I make a build. With your help, it takes me about 2 to 3 hours to do.
Yeah, but that's life.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, remember, dude, it's just a game.
Coming up, Francisco gives us a look at the overall structure of his campaign.
Hello everyone, my name is Francisco, and welcome to the second episode of These Are the Voyages, where I will be discussing the campaign that we were held until recently here in New Zealand. Last time we talked about how to bring new players into the game. Today I'm going to be talking about how I divided the campaign and how I organized the whole thing in terms of its core structure. First of all, I didn't really want to do an overly complicated campaign. Most of our players are new to the game. I was the most experienced player, and I'd only be playing for about 6 months. Like, some of our players didn't really have even starter sets at this point. They only had a couple of expansions. I didn't find anything online that was helpful, so I just came home and I devised my own set of rules. And how did I do it? Well, we would be playing every couple of weeks. And I didn't want the campaign to drag on for too long, but I didn't want it to be too short either. So I divided it into 3 phases. Each phase composed of 3 bi-monthly, that is, twice a month, sessions, with each session composed of 3 rounds or missions or battles or whatever you want to call them. Each player will be playing 1 mission as a defender, 1 mission as the attacker, and then the 3rd mission would be an overall melee combat thing, just to keep it interesting and varied. I divided the campaign into 3 phases, like I said, with a sense of escalation to it, to give players time to get used to the game and decide if they want to buy new ships and what they want to do. So the scouting phase started at a maximum fleet point of 50 points, with no ships of base cost over 30 points, no upgrades over 5 points, and no captain of skill higher than 5. Followed by the escalation phase, with maximum fleet build points of 80, no ships of base cost over 35, no upgrades over 6 points, and no captains with skill higher than 7. And finally, the open conflict phase, with a maximum fleet point build of 120 points and no further restrictions. Also, we decided to play Faction Pure. We had a Romulan player, a Federation player, a Klingon player, 2 Dominion players, and a Kazon player. For the last stage of the campaign, for the open conflict phase, I allowed them to take one allied ship from a faction that doesn't belong to their core faction, provided that its points are lower than the most expensive ship in their fleet, and that their captain has a lower captain skill than their highest skilled captain from their core faction. As for the missions, well, I looked online, and again, I really didn't find anything that was suitable for this sort of event. I went through all the missions that came with the retail ships. I didn't find a single one that I really thought was adequate either, which meant, again, I would have to write the missions myself, which I did. I devised a series of missions and scenarios that I'll go into at a later date, and assign a number of victory points based on completing missions and destroying enemy ships. Whoever had the most accumulated number of victory points at the end of the campaign would receive a prize, and whoever had the most number of redshirt points, that is, sportsmanship award, basically. At the end of every round, players would vote on who their preferred opponent was, and whoever had the most number of points then would get a secondary prize. But again, this is something that I'll get into in the future. But that's pretty much it. I mean, it seems more complicated than it actually was, but if you try it at home, if you try and do this with a couple of friends, you will find that it does really bring people together in a sort of competitive environment without being too aggressive at the same time. It's a really forgiving set of rules, and I encourage everyone to give it a go. So I'll see you next time.
Top 3 for this week's episode is Elite Talents. What are our top 3 elite talents for Star Trek Attack Wing? Well, starting off with my number 3, I went for computer analysis. And that says, during the planning phase, you may discard this card to remove all the disabled upgrade tokens from all your other upgrades. This is just a brilliant card that, in a pinch, it's like a reset button. It's your Omega 13. It gets you back on track and ready to roll at a moment's notice. Anything is possible with a card like this.
Oh yeah, I love computer analysis. Great potential. I've been extolling the virtues since we saw it come out on the Sakharov, and I think it's one that people don't pay enough attention to, but when you're pressed for slots, it tends to be that elite talent slot that's still open, and this fills that void nicely.
Just rounds it all off, especially in those Phlox Beverly builds, any of those crew reset Fed knots. It's the perfect thing to just sort of kick everything back into place, or round it off in the sense of getting your weapons and your tech back on track in addition to your crew.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. So my number 3 is actually higher on Nick's list, but I'm going to take a moment to talk about my honorable mentions. So a couple of great cards that didn't quite make the cut. Cheat Death, Engage, Defense Condition 1, Picard Maneuver, and Borg Alliance. So those are 5 really cool talents that I think are worth looking at. Of course, all of these things are build dependent, but my top 3 are really talents that I think can work in any build, whereas those 5 I think are very specific.
Sounds great. It's nice to have a little bit more options to choose from, and there's so many with elite talents. And my second pick, my number 2 choice, was Vulcan High Command. In a game where upgrade slots are at a premium, and especially with new ships coming out that don't have certain slots, Vulcan High Command comes highly recommended by me, especially one used in tandem with Lore, which is one of the only cards that allows you to use this when not on a Vulcan ship. It adds 2 tech, or 2 crew, or 1 tech and 1 crew. And what better way to give your ship that extra boost than to add some much-needed slots? And given that Lore is independent, you can put him on the Dauntless and get that guy running with some crew. And that ship, as you well know, comes with 4 tech slots and no crew slots. So with Lore and Vulcan High Command, you've just added 3 crew slots and you're ready to go.
And if one of those crews is Sakona, now you've got a weapon.
Brilliant. A discounted weapon at that.
Yes. While pricey, that's a combo that is pretty neat.
What's your number 2, David?
Well, my number 2 is Lure, not Lore. That came on the Dauntless pack. And what that card says is during the planning phase, after all ships have chosen their maneuver, you may discard this card to target an enemy ship that is not within range 1 to 3 of your ship. If you do this, change that ship's chosen maneuver to any green maneuver. Now that's been errated, that's not on the card itself, but it's very important because it's got to be a green. If the move would fly them off the board or cause them to collide, they can choose not to move instead.
Is there any penalty for that choice?
No, there is not.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Plus you're getting a green move out of it. So Lure is very situational, but where it's most effective is knowing that somebody really needs to make a bank to the left, and instead you make them bank to the right.
It's like an enhanced faked messages, isn't it?
It really is. And if you want to combine it with faked messages, now you've really got something scary.
Oh, that'd be a powerful combination in the right hands.
So, no, faked messages is not my number 1 talent, but it sets up a very nice combo. Lure is not this super killer card that it was with the Fletcher maneuver. That's named after Robert Fletcher, who could fly a Borg ship off of the board on turn 1. This was back before the errata to green moves. But still, having it be only green moves has not killed the card. It's just reined it into the playable, and what I think is still the very good playable card.
Worf to the rescue, for sure. They did a great job fixing this card without losing its effectiveness.
They kept the spirit of the card while preventing a lot of rage quitting.
Absolutely.
So Nick, what's your number 1?
My number 1 pick is Stalking Mode.
I love Stalking Mode. It was my number 3.
It's an independent elite talent. It says, action. Discard this card to target a ship at range 1 to 3. The target ship's skill number is reduced by 2, and that's captain skill. In addition, during the roll attack dice step, gain +1 attack die against the target ship. Both of these effects last until the end of the game. Now, this is a fantastic card, specifically with Carr, which gets his +1 over captains lower than him, but even on its own, it's a very effective card, and there's a number of reasons for this. 1, it reduces the captain skill of your target permanently for the rest of the game, even in interactions with other ships, so you get the jump on him or her. +1 attack die is during the roll attack dice step, and based on that wording, that means you get it for each attack from that ship to the target ship. And yet again, both of those effects lasting until the end of the game, something like Peak Performance, which I have coming up tomorrow night, that guy, you can keep having that coming back anytime you lose your ship or they lose theirs.
So you're preaching to the choir when you're talking about Stalking Mode, and it really is a great card. That extra attack die is a nice effect, but really it's that reduction by skill 2 that makes this card amazing. If there was a talent that just said get +1 attack die against a target ship, I'd probably still take it, but it wouldn't be on my top 3.
One thing I like about the way that this works and the +1 aspect is it also helps bring in ships that might not otherwise have been viable in a competitive environment. So getting ships like the Reliant, which only starts at a 2 primary weapon value, you're bumping that up to a 3. Its own ability could bump it up to that 4, and other combinations, you've just made it a viable ship.
And you have to believe Khan would take Stalking Mode.
Absolutely. Independent captain, independent elite talent, you don't get much better than that.
That is very true.
Well, David, what's your top pick?
Well, my top pick is a card we saw at Worlds, and that is Rebellion. If you are defending against a ship that has a greater hull value than your ship, during the roll attack dice step, you may discard Rebellion to force that ship to roll 2 less attack dice for the attack, and after they're done, you may immediately make 1 free attack against that ship with your primary weapon.
Talk about mirror flavor.
This card came on the ISS Defiant, so mirror talent. Beautifully done in terms of thematic, but also a great card for a real use in this game. Having 2 less attack dice rolled against you oftentimes saves you from death. But then to add on, being able to make a free attack against whoever shoots at you, that's just icing on the cake.
With mint frosting. So that's our top 3 elite talents. Let's listen to some of yours.
Hi, this is David Walton from the Faction Report, talking about my favourite elite talent. It was really difficult choosing one for this. There are elite talents that I use quite frequently, and then there are elite talents that I think are just downright brilliant. The elite talent I've chosen to go for might surprise a few people. It is actually Invaluable Advice, which came with the Rav Last OP prize ship. Invaluable Advice is a 2-point upgrade that allows you to place a battle stations token by the ship in exchange for a discard. It's a great elite talent, primarily because it's a wonderful situational card that if you've bumped, if you're in the wrong position, if you've got to do an action for some other reason, but you still want that extra bit of dice efficiency either in attack or in defense, Invaluable Advice is a great way of doing that. I've often found myself in situations where I don't want to overrun a ship because it would take it out of arc, but at the same time I also want the battle station's efficiency, so I'll deliberately bump into it, lose my action, but then discard Invaluable Advice to get battle stations anyway. I think it's a great card, and I think you should all check it out.
Greetings from BaneofBorg. This segment will reveal my favorite elite talent, Conditional Surrender. I know that this talent is the favorite of many players. It is a Ferengi card that costs 3, so for most it'll cost 4 points. It came from the Kraton, a Dominion OP event prize ship. The card reads, when your ship is attacked, before any dice are rolled, discard all of your crew upgrades to cancel the attack. You must have at least 1 crew upgrade on your ship in order to use this ability. Many players combo this with a 4-point Wayoon and a cheap 1-point crew to get repeated uses. I recommend placing it on a Borg vessel or another capital ship flanked by fighters. This makes this card a fun, useful way to win your battles. Thanks for listening. BaneofBorg signing off. Resistance is futile.
Hi, this is Dave Griffin. My favorite elite upgrade is the Chitang's Defense Condition 1. It's a great elite upgrade that gives you and nearby Klingon ships a battle station. That's a great Alpha Strike tool for offense, but an even better defensive tool, because there's nothing good about the Alpha Strike or the initial encounter if you're just going to lose a ship while you're doing it. So it's a great way for the Klingons to keep their ships after that initial engagement. The only problem is it's very hard to find because the Chitang is so expensive on eBay. My runner-up would probably be Engage. It came with the original starter. You have an extra green maneuver if you did an initial green maneuver. It is an action, but extra maneuvering is good for the current meta of the game, and it's even better with other ships that have better green maneuvers. And it's not a discard.
I'm Goat.
This is Brian.
This is RJ. And we're from Red Maneuvers. And what was it? We're talking about elite talents?
Yeah, favorite elite talent.
Go.
I'll fire this one up. It's I Stab at Thee. Wonderful elite talent. Ship is destroyed. 3 attack dice. All ships within range 1 suffer the damage they don't roll defense. It's 3 points. It's not bad. Comes out independent.
Basically, it turns your ship into a mine.
Right. So
which is always handy.
For me, that's happiness.
Put that on the Raven.
There you go. Just run
Shuttlecraft. Cheapest captain you can find.
Put it on the shuttlecraft.
There you go. Alright, what you got, RJ?
I've got Be Creative. Came with the Valjean. It's 5 points, but the nice thing about it is it is a disable, not a discard, and it allows you to change the action you took. If you took an evade, a scan, or battle station, you can change it to any one of the others.
Right. It's a nice little
thing for if you like, man, I wish I would have taken a battle station, but I took the evade instead.
It's like the oops, I did it again.
Yeah, basically.
All right, and I like Intendant's Orders from the Mirror Universe. It's a 2-point upgrade, so it actually fits fairly thematically. It is a disable, and then during the planning phase, you can disable it to remove 2 disabled upgrade tokens from your crew, which Mirror has an abundance of, so it makes them even that more effective. For 2 points, you get a double action on all your disabled stuff.
Yeah. It's like a doctor, isn't it?
Close. Essentially. But it's like,
close.
I'm making you work harder even though you're tired. It's the cracking, it's a whip cracker. It's a whip
well,
cracker.
that makes everything better right there.
All right?
Yep. Everybody have a good one.
Have a good one.
Hello, everybody. Innkeeper here from the Wandering Inn channel. My elite talent choice, Qapla'. If you're a Klingon player, this is a must-have. Qapla', basically, you take a dice from your attack roll and turn it to whatever face you want. Going to be a critical hit. That's just the way it's going to be. Or you could easily put the elite attack dice in and set it to the double hit result. It can just turn any dice to whatever face you want, discards it after use. 2 points, though. So cheap, you can really put it in almost any build. Why not? The best part about this card is it can really stack up well with multiple builds. There's so many you can go for, but thematically, if you go just Klingon, Kunli Voss is a good choice because you discard him to add an additional hit to your attack. Why not? That means your critical hit that you've chosen off Qapla' has a better chance to get in. Or even if you have Drex or a target lock, just to guarantee the maximum dice rolls and rub in a quick critical hit, could damage a ship real bad. Projected Stasis Field is also a pretty good choice for this, because it would disable your shields and the opponent's shields. The ship with Qapla' can come in, score a critical hit, doesn't really matter how many dice you do, and if you get like Warp Core Breach or Damage Sensor Array, that opponent is not going to be doing much for the rest of the game. 2 points for a Damage Sensor Array on a ship, no more actions on that vessel, why not? That's my choice. It's not probably the best elite talent out there, but it definitely has a bit of a guarantee where if you time it perfectly, it will not let you down. Free critical hit, always good.
Hello, my name's Alex Jamal, and I'm here talking about my favourite elite talent. Now, my favourite elite talent is, for me, the most fun I've ever had using one, so not the most tactically useful, or necessarily even useful. Basically, my favourite is the standard attack formation. It's quite hard to pull off, and very difficult to actually make work for you, but say you have Ramata Clan on board that ship as well, then perhaps you're rolling 7 or 9 dice, and that other ship, well, it's most likely going to be dead.
Hey everyone, John from Atlanta. My favorite elite talent has got to be the Federation talent Cheat Death. Cost 5, not unique, and it's from the Enterprise. It seems pretty obvious. When your ship is destroyed, you pretty much remove all damage from it and just leave 1 point on your hull. That's it. So nothing else heals, nothing else is good. It doesn't sound like it does a lot because you only survive with 1 health. Like, what can you do with 1 health? But in a big game, it makes the opponent have to do another attack on you to destroy you. In a small game, that can really turn the tide of the game because you can dodge, you can shoot, you pretty much get a whole nother turn you wouldn't have gotten without it. That's my opinion. Thank you. If you like my segments, check out my podcast, Star Trek at Warp Speed. You can check us on Blogspot, StarTrek@warpspeed.blogspot.com. We're a episode review podcast. Okay. Thank you guys. Bye.
Hi there, it's Francisco here. And my choice for elite attack talent is Conditional Surrender. And you might be asking, why Conditional Surrender? I mean, there's nothing particularly interesting about that card. And I say you're wrong, because it really illustrates what I like best about Attack Wing, which is how well it captures the flavor of each faction. And in this case, what could be more Ferengi than a captain sacrificing his entire crew to cancel an enemy attack? To save his own measly, pathetic little life, just to prolong it for 1 more turn. I really like that card. I remember opening the expansion pack and looking at it and just laughing out loud and telling my wife who was there with me, this is so Ferengi. This card captures the flavor of that faction just so well. Conditional Surrender just captures the Ferengi superbly, and that is my choice for my favorite elite talent.
Hey everyone, it's Natasha from Dude, It's Just a Game. My top talent is Cheat Death. I really enjoy this talent. What it does is it forces your opponent to spend usually a lot of time killing you, and then not quite be successful, so you can come back for another shot. You can maneuver out of their firing range so that they can't actually kill you. If it's towards the end of the game, they're about to call time, it would maybe mean the difference between winning or losing, because if your opponent can't blow up your ship, then you maybe win. Worst case scenario, what would happen is that your opponent would then have to spend yet another turn shooting at you, blowing you up. That wastes time and resources of theirs and gives you some more time to use that ship and your other ships to maybe go for the kill. Those are the reasons I like Cheat Death.
Now that is what I truly call variety in terms of favorite talents. We saw 2 contributors say the same thing, and that is an amazing thing. So go out there, find some elite talents, tell us what your favorites are on our Facebook page. Message us, post to the page.
Warp core breach in 10.
Let us know.
9.
We'd love to hear from you.
8.
Thank you again
7,
so much for listening.
6. 5.
And until
4,
next time,
this is Nick.
3.
And this is David.
2.
Ejecting the core.
Warp core ejected.
Warp Core Breach is produced by Nick Norris and David Montgomery, with additional content from our contributors. Our computer is voiced by Corinne Donnelly. We are neither affiliated nor associated with WizKids Games or CBS Paramount. All sound files are used under Creative Commons 3.0 by attribution. For specifics, please visit our Facebook page by searching Warp Core Breach Podcast. If you want to contribute to the show, let us know on the Facebook page, or you can email us at warpcorebreachpodcast@gmail.com.
that's just icing on the cake.
With mint frosting.
Vanilla buttercream, but we won't quibble.
Mint frosting, it's the Worf line from TNG. Data's hallucinations or nightmares.
Ah, yes. I do remember that.
Cellular peptide cake with mint frosting.
I don't like that episode.